Exchange, I'd like to welcome you. We have another great presentation. I just want to mention a couple of our sponsors, actually more than a couple, but a few of our sponsors. There's Ford Corporation, Ford Community, Green Grant, O Organics, Bright Green, New York Times. We have some media sponsors, WPFW, DC Radio, Democracy Now!, Conscious Living TV, The Nation, Mother Jones, Sierra Club, and Washington City Paper. Our partners are NAACP, National Children's Museum, Cliff Bar, Repacks, Earth Balance, Mom's Organic Market, Raw Juice, Sustain You, and the National Aquarium of DC. So without taking any further time, I'm going to turn this over to our fabulous panel.
Good afternoon. I knew the microphone worked. All right, good afternoon. My name is Russell Klein. I am the Community Recycling Educator for the District of Columbia under the Department of Public Works. And with me today is Angelique Cofield. She is the Quality Assurance Officer for Events DC at the Walter Washington Convention Center. And of course, we have our panel we'll introduce momentarily. We're before you today to talk about the Material Resource Sustainability Internship, or the MRSI as we refer to it. The MRSI started in 2009 as the idea that we could take young adults, roughly college age, and introduce them to regional facilities and international experts and community hands-on projects. That way we would arm them to work in the district schools as advocates for sustainability, beginning with recycling projects. We've seen our alumni go on to work for City Council, to work for the White House, to work for nonprofits. We've also had them at the Green Festival presenting before, as well as the Keep America Beautiful National Conference in Orlando.
We here at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center, we take great pride in our sustainability program with not only this property, but RFK Stadium, the Carnegie across the way. But we also take great pride in reaching out, working in tandem with programs like this that help all of us grow, especially DC.
So, essentially this program runs in a very, very efficient 3-day week this year, where we have a handful of partners by which we take in we take our participants through a rigorous training, very rigorous, for about 6 or 7 weeks, where they're working with me under the Department of Public Works to visit facilities and experts, as I mentioned. They're at the convention center 1 day a week working on projects, and they're working with our friend Margaret Morgan-Hubbard and Benny Erez at Eco City Farms. So at Eco City Farms, they have the opportunity to work within the community on issues of food deserts, on composting, organics management, so they're deep roots in the community, pun intended. So now I'd like to get to our questions with the panel and introduce, let me allow my colleague Angelique to introduce our panel.
The one thing that speaks volumes about this program that I did want to just reach out, while he touched upon a few things, I must admit, we packed in a great deal in 3 days. Just taking a look at some notes here, Eco City Farms, they concentrated on waste-to-food quality composting, vermiculture, herbal farming, urban farming, renewable energy and community engagement. DC Office of Recycling dealt with material life cycles, tours of regional facilities, both public and private sector institutions, industry expert discussions, and environmental codes. Here at the Convention Center, we dealt with sustainability framework, third-party certifications, components of sustainability, metrics and assessments, contracts, and service partners. So we packed in a great deal for a very short period of time. So enough about the history and how this program is working via our perspectives. It's time for you to meet the agents. Allow me to introduce the interns of MRSI.
My name is Brian Flores. I am a 2010 graduate of Ohio University with a geography degree, and my interest in this program was creating a more sustainable urban environment and just sustainability as a potential career path.
Hello everyone, my name is Jaisa Gooden. I'm a sophomore international business major at Howard University, and I came to MRSI through my work on campus, working with residents' life and promoting sustainability in the dorms. And also I have interest in career through sustainability as well.
Hi everybody, my name is Hrycyshyn. I am a senior at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, working on a degree in environmental studies and a certificate in geographic information systems. What drew me to this program was through my coursework I learned a lot about urban sustainability, and I really wanted to get a first-hand experience on how to create effective and successful sustainability projects.
Hello everyone, my name is Totty. I attend University of the District of Columbia here in DC, and I was first drawn to this program through my interest in becoming a community organizer and connecting local businesses and nonprofits.
My name is Richard Smith. I'm a junior at Howard University, criminal justice major, and the main reason I got into this internship was the interest in going green and sustainability, and also the drive to possibly have a career in sustainability.
Okay, so a couple of questions about the program. What did they learn? So we all have different definitions, I think, and I think that's why we're sometimes at odds with one another. So one of the first things is we're going to ask the panel, what's waste? And what type of waste streams have you observed?
Waste is the society's manifestation of our inability to efficiently make use of our natural resources. It can take multiple forms such as compostable organic material, recyclable scrap, or even unused utilities such as water and energy.
Also, we had the opportunity to witness waste firsthand on different levels and different entities. For example, here at the convention center, we worked with Centerplate, which is the food contracting the food company that handles all the meals and stuff that you would see dining here at the convention center. So we had the opportunity to work in their kitchen and look at how compost material, the potential that the building has to compost, and how they can improve the current system that they have in place.
Some other waste streams that we got to witness were more unusual ones that are on the rise, like electronic recycling. Different universities we visited, that was something that was available to the students. Also, we visited a construction demolition facility where they recycle all the materials from construction, such as wood, scrap, and all the concrete. And those things can be repurposed for landfill cover and other uses that keeping those materials actually useful.
And also additional waste stream we learned about at Eagle City Farms was the food waste stream. At Eagle City Farms, they allow the neighbors in the neighborhood to bring in their food scraps, and in return they can get some type of compost they can use in their own garden. And then the good thing about Eagle City Farms is they understand what type of compost works best with gardens. There's a good compost and there's also bad compost, but they try to preach and try to teach everyone that brings food scraps in to understand what type of food plants actually need and what actually helps vegetables grow better.
I'd also like to note that we had the opportunity to visit a landfill. A lot of people think of waste streams, they think of, recyclable goods, but we also had the opportunity to see where does our trash go, the things that can't be recycled or reused. So we visited Prince William County landfill, and we had the opportunity to see firsthand the huge piles of trash and the problem that our society lives with.
So a great deal of types of waste. What about the types of material collection some of these entities had?
I just want to mention for material collection, you have your general material collection like municipal pickups for trash and recycling, but there's also a lot of like specialized collections that a lot of people don't take into consideration. A couple that we talked about through working and talking to a lot of DC government officials was special collections like household hazardous waste, where the community or the local government will sponsor a pickup location and date and time for people to bring kind of bizarre items that are too unsafe to put in the traditional trash stream, but also can't be recycled either. In addition to that, you also have special collections for things like plastic bags. As you can note in grocery stores, they have the collections because those are really hard to recycle in the traditional recycling stream. So if they can kind of aggregate those, you can put those to good use. One of the facilities we visited was Trex. They make decking material, and it's a composite material. And they actually use plastic bags, like thousands of plastic bags in their material. So having these specialized collections help them really gather together material and put it to good use.
Okay, so when you're wrapping your head around this, let's say you're out there in the community and you're assisting a business or a school, how do you manage multiple material generators, that is different parties who are all participating, multiple end users like building occupants, staff, management, attendees in a facility, etc.?
One example of a way you would help manage multiple end users is through producing great visual aids and signage. When trying to get people to recycle, they need to be informed and educated on what types of waste streams they're being collected and what bins to put what type of waste stream in. For example, the convention center has recovery stations that are labeled using an initiative we call Know the Code. This is because we have a number of different colors: red for bulk trash, yellow for regular trash, green for mixed paper and cardboard, blue for commingled glass, plastic, and aluminum cans, and brown for compostable waste. We actually spent our 7 weeks during this internship collecting information and designing a composting program for their main contracted restaurant Centerplate, so that they'll be able to make better use of the compost bins in big events like this one.
Also, I think an important aspect of managing multiple users is education. Through Eco City Farms, we have the opportunity to experience how they work in the community and how they use education through the youth. We had the opportunity to visit a summer program that they had for children in the area, where they taught them about the importance of composting and had them working hands-on, learning about organic gardening and the benefits that it provides, good health and things of that nature.
And as a facilitator, as someone who's helping to put together these programs, we learned that there are 3 very key essential things you have to provide the people who are generating waste in a facility. And those 3 things are mastery, access, and context. Jaisa just touched on mastery. It's that education aspect, helping people understand the system that is in place so that they can utilize it correctly. Leah was talking about access when she was talking about things like signage, but it's those other tangible materials that you need. So things like bins, a hauler, you need to contract a hauler to come pick up your trash. So it's all those like physical things. And then context is kind of, it's what gives the program weight. It's what's going to help perpetuate it into the future, because context gives the program meaning. It gets people involved and gets them caring about it so that it's something that lasts.
Another aspect to consider is accountability. Sometimes you have to put together a program or initiative within a business, but that would be different than putting together a program in a school. And depending on whether you already have employees being paid, such as a maintenance staff, to learn to source separate, or whether you have to bring together the community or assemble a green team to specifically tackle monitoring and enforcement of the program, you have to consider who's going to be accountable for monitoring and following up with the actual initiative.
Well, following up on what you just said, Leah, so how do you maximize participation? Anyone?
One way to maximize participation is definitely showing the impact we are having on the world. I think when people realize the effect we're having on the earth and the world and the waste that we're giving off and not finding an alternative for that actually puts things in perspective and understanding that we are affecting our world in a negative way, and that changing our ways of getting rid of our waste is definitely important in having a longer longevity for the earth.
Another way of increasing participation is simply by trying to make it easier, and that alone can be difficult. But I mean, having bins in places that are high traffic areas or visible in many locations, and this just allows people access to these bins, and therefore they can participate effectively.
This is more of a classic means of enforcing participation, but enforcement is a critical aspect. I don't know how many of you all know this, but recycling is mandatory by law. And through our work with DC Public Works, we found out that a lot of businesses are not in compliance with that law. So simply providing the resources to have investigators who can go out to these businesses and issue violations if necessary, and also provide incentives for those who are complying, that can also help maximize participation as well.
Also, while we were with the convention center, we met with their marketing staff and talked about different fun ways to sort of get inclusion with all types of employees or with schools, such as providing incentives or even having fun little competitions for who can collect the most scrap and recycle it. So definitely competition, incentives, and just finding a fun way to market it to people is a great way to get people interested in participating.
Would you describe some of the stakeholders?
Well, a stakeholder is anybody who participates in a program or is affected by the program. I'm going to use one example. In the upcoming months, we're each going to be assigned a school in DC, as was discussed earlier, to help them create a recycling program. So within the schools, all the stakeholders include the administration, the staff, like teachers, down to like the custodial staff, students, teachers, basically anyone who is a part of the school network. Also, you're looking at people like the haulers. The company that comes and picks up the trash, they are also a stakeholder.
And also the importance of stakeholders. You want to create buy-in for them, specifically when you're talking about the people who are at the top, the powers that be. You want to be able to come to them and make them want to be involved with this program, tell them why they should be involved with it, and that will also help to make your program stronger.
What are some of the challenges? Some of the challenges that were introduced to you, as well as some of the other factors that you had to consider?
Well, one of the challenges that we were introduced to was the challenge of having the community have different ways that they were grown up, and the different ways that they view recycling and sustainability. A lot of times people have misconceptions, especially with recycling, on what can be recycled, what can't be, and what's considered sustainable and what's considered going green. And I think that aspect of different lifestyles being clashed together and not necessarily knowing the facts about sustainability is definitely a challenge, because in order for a whole community to work together to be sustainable, everyone has to kind of be on the same page with things. And so when you have different facts or different misconceptions about things, it is difficult for everyone to move forward in the same direction.
Also, a big issue with challenge that we kept facing over and over again at different material recovery facilities like recycling centers and the construction demolition places, and as well as composting at EcoCity farms. You're always going to get contamination or waste that doesn't belong in that particular waste stream, and figuring it out how to make sure that doesn't happen and cleaning it up as best as possible is one of the biggest challenges that this seems to be facing when dealing with solid waste.
All right. So now that you're going to be applying this, tell us a little bit about the steps that are involved with the development of a program.
The first step I think would probably be making observations and setting goals with the group that you're with, the recipient of the program, and after coming together and making observations based on what their actual waste, what levels of waste they actually produce, conducting a waste audit like we did for the convention center. You will follow that up with formulating a plan, and once you have that plan formed, you initiate the plan and actually have a performance period where you test out the changes that you made, and after you have your performance period, you identify the results of whether there were ways that you could have improved upon that plan, or whether you successfully created a program that will have a lot of longevity and really work for them over time, and celebrate those results by even coming up with new ways you might be able to improve their level of sustainability, perhaps in other directions in addition to that plan.
Also, as part of creating that plan, a really important thing to do is to organize all those stakeholders that we mentioned earlier, because again, this program is going to affect them in some way. So when you're creating a plan, or in the beginning of creating a plan, you create a green team, or any sort of team, doesn't have to necessarily be labeled green team, but you create a team and you have representatives from every group of stakeholders, so you have a little bit of buy-in from every type of person who's involved, and their opinion, their side of things, and it really helps solidify a program that caters to everybody, and it also helps everyone kind of get buy-in from all aspects and levels of participation. In addition to that, I'll be quick. The only other thing too, when creating the plan, is having measurements, because as Leah was saying, you want to set those goals and then kind of see how well you did at the end of your plan, and the only way to effectively do that is to create some sort of measurement plan. So you could use anything like waste diversion or whatnot, but it's important to have those kind of solid numbers.
Well, I'd like to settle on that for just a moment. So why are plans, systems, and measurements so important? And what are some types of measurements used in conjunction with sustainability programs?
Well, plans are important because they kind of form a structure and a framework with which to create a program, and it also puts your program on a timeline so that you can keep continuing going. Otherwise, you could get tripped up over something and you just kind of keep going in a circle and nothing actually ever progresses forward. So having a solid plan really helps you kind of move things along and create something that will last.
In respects to measurement, measurement is definitely important in trying to get stakeholders still involved and get them going, because when you have stakeholders see the progress or see the difference they are making, that definitely helps a lot, and it definitely encourages them to not only continue doing what they're doing, but also encourage other people in their community and in our family to continue to preach sustainability.
To answer the second part of the question about what types of measurements we encountered during our participation in the program, during our time at EcoCity Farms, we had the opportunity to actually make compost from beginning to end, see the entire process. And part of that recipe is what we called it, to make compost that's essential, is the carbon to nitrogen ratio that's necessary to produce compost that is going to benefit the plants Also, not just the carbon to nitrogen ratio, but also there's a certain level of moisture the compost has to contain. There's a certain temperature that must be maintained in order for the compost to really have all of those nutrients and that bacteria is thriving so that the plant will benefit.
Could somebody expound on types of measurements that you've gone through?
There's, one measurement that maybe a lot of you have heard of is called the certification. It's something that the convention center uses to try to basically set goals or benchmarks that they want to live up to increase their sustainability level. And convention center is currently trying to become LEED goals, so that includes all different aspects includes all different aspects from the actual building and what it was constructed with. It also includes the amount of energy that everyone's consuming out of water.
To carry on with that, so these measurements such as energy index unit, which is the energy used in a building divided by the square footage, and so we got those measurements as well as, of course, all your utilities, water and more electricity. But the measurements, again, these measurements are important so you can see your progress and see where you're faltering. But also different measurements such as diversion rate, which is the amount of waste that you're keeping out of the landfill and transferring to either recycling or reuse or compost. And so those are some key measurements that we learned about it, and it's important to keep in mind.
How do you measure performance? Performance periods?
Well, measuring performance is actually an aspect of the plan that you create. So you're going to look at things like waste diversion, maybe contamination. You can do this, one way you can do this is by doing a series of audits throughout your program. So you do your first audit to get your baseline understanding of the types of waste that are being produced and the opportunities you have for waste diversion. As you do subsequent audits, you can kind of audit every waste stream and see how much material is going to the correct waste stream, but also how much contamination is present within those different streams.
Also, another area that we saw where measurement is important to note, where measurements are used to note performance within Department of Public Works. Like I mentioned before about the enforcement, looking at the compliance rates, looking from where we were when we started, then we tried this strategy, where are we now? Those type of rates are also important in order to measure improvement.
So, coming up to the end, but I still want to know, how do you communicate this? That is, to talk about a critical starting point to teach or introduce others about sustainability. Where does that conversation begin?
I believe that it begins with creating buy-in. Like I mentioned before, when you're coming to the group, whoever they may be, you want to figure out what are their issues, what are their interests, and what's your plan going to do for them. That's something critical that they're going to want to know. That's going to be the first thing that sparks their interest and will ensure their commitment as well to what you're trying to create.
I think another starting point is understanding recycling. Like I said before, many people have misconceptions on what can be recycled and what can't. And I think that since everyone throws something away every day, and it's such a daily routine, that it's a great, perfect starting point to kick off sustainability and understanding what can be recycled and what can't, and also just trying to practice that every day.
I think helping people kind of take a look around their community and kind of spot things that may have not noticed previously, but something that will kind of spark an interest in them. So whether it be if you live in an urban area and there's an abandoned lot and it has a lot of issues with illegal dumping, kind of spotting that and being like, how can we change this? On kind of a broader scale, we had the pleasure of sitting in on the EPA's intergenerational conference or intergenerational youth conference on environmental justice. While we were there, we heard from many amazing community organizations where members of the community saw something happening within their community and they rose up together to try to kind of, you know, battle with it, try to improve their conditions and to prevent other environmental justices from occurring within their own community.
Well, great. I want to take an opportunity if there are any questions out there, but I only have one question first that I need to ask them. We already recognize why they came to the program, but now I really want to get a general sense of now what are they taking away from the program. So panel, would you please?
Well, as you all know or may not know, our next step through the program is we're going to be partnered with a DC public school where we're going to go in and serve kind of as consultants to the school trying to create their own recycling and sustainability program. And I feel like my unique role with the school will be to serve as a guiding light, because I don't want to go in and try and lead the way. I want to go and kind of sit back and let them identify their own problems, and then when they say, oh, we have this great idea, how do we get there? What's the next step for us? Then I can kind of show them the challenges that they should anticipate and things of that nature.
To kind of go off what Jaisa said, definitely going into the schools, being a consultant with them is the main goal, but also going further than that and taking this, taking the lessons and things I've learned from this program and actually using it in my own life, and then actually preaching that to my friends and family. And I think that's the way sustainability is going to be reached out, is if that people understand what's going on and then also preach it to everyone they know, and so that it's nothing but a ripple effect.
What I'm going to take away from this internship was we learned a lot. So we gained a lot of knowledge about all aspects of sustainability, and I feel like we are now able to be resources for other people and other organizations that are working for sustainable initiatives. We also were taught where we can find certain resources and answers if perhaps we don't know them ourselves. So I definitely think we'll be great facilitators and able to help people pursue their programs better.
Because throughout this program, we met with so many different people on so many different levels, from nonprofit organizations to small businesses to big businesses and municipal representatives. So because there's so many different stakeholders involved, that we met with and really understood their problems and different things that they've done, I think that's an important part of being a catalyst of change. You have to be able to work with community, business, government, everyone. And I think that's going to come in handy when we work with the schools and work with anyone else.
Kind of just how like everyone kind of touched base on becoming kind of a source of management for these projects. I know in the past that there's been a lot of projects I've tackled, had a lot of good intentions and good ideas, but didn't have that structure or that knowledge base or that tool set for them to be successful. And if they were successful, they were very much an uphill battle. So, you know, things would be a lot easier when you have the right knowledge, the right tools, and when you understand the challenges from every different aspect of a situation.
So does anyone have a question for this best and the brightest?
All right, can you come around to the side for me if you have a question? Just a few minutes. Come up front.
What do you think some key components in order to make your school program sustainable after your consulting period is over? I know you're talking about buy-in and some other things? What are some other key components in that?
That's a fantastic question. I think one of the most important things that we're going to have to accomplish is getting not only just general buy-in, but buy-in from, if you want to say, the right people. So meaning people in like management positions and administration, because these are the people who are going to kind of keep the program as part of like an important goal set for the school, and will also hold the people who work for them accountable for participating and ensuring that this program lasts and is successful.
And also to that, having the community surrounding neighbors is definitely important, especially for longevity, because students and teachers, come and go in that area, but usually if neighbors are in that area, they're staying there. So having people also involved from the neighborhood keeps that longevity going.
Anybody else?
So I don't know if you already answered this, but I was wondering, do you get to pick what project you get to do in these schools in the next step, or can you touch upon what you will be doing?
These guys are based in DC.
Our project with the schools is, again, more to come in as a resource and facilitator. So we're going to be there helping them establish recycling programs, trying to get them to do it within their own schools. So having administration on board, having schools or the kids on board, and by doing, we're going to create green teams. And so by having a green team, you're having these people accountable for that program, that recycling program. And so we're going to be helping them do that. And any challenges they come across, we're going to be there to point out or help them solve those problems.
As far as like which school we get to work in, to some degree, we don't really have too much say in that. We do a little bit, but there have been schools that have kind of volunteered to have us in participating with them. But we do have a lot of say as far as how we want to structure the program. We have an overall kind of understanding of what it looks like, but as far as trying to encourage other little side projects, so getting the schools involved with Keep America Beautiful's recyclable would be something that we could choose to do with our schools. Maybe holding different competitions within the schools, like door decorating, or even trying to encourage teachers to pull in waste management and recycling education into their regular curriculum. That's something that we can try to encourage within the schools, and to some degree it is partially by choice if we decide to take that avenue.
All right, anyone else? Can I invite you up here?
Sorry, I missed much of your presentations, but I guess this is for the DC government organizers. Are you planning to continue this program, and will there be a way that these folks can help feed into improving it?
It's a very good question.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. I think that what we're doing here is, in some terms, staff development. So I anticipate one of these days, where I mentioned at the very beginning, we have already sent our students on to other institutions. So they have actually worked for City Council. We've had alumni go to City Council, go to the White House, go to nonprofits. Perhaps the District of Columbia's own agencies, in their move to go green, could well use people with this kind of training. So we're looking forward to things like that. This program has been running for 4 years. It doesn't have to be just schools. It can be your business or anyone sitting here. We would like to see them employed because they know a lot now.
That's very true. Not only do they know a lot, they are very, very humble because they're talking about one project at a time. Their next step right now will be going into DC public schools. But what they haven't told you about is reaching out for another program, working as lead project interns, also revisiting already implemented compost and recycling programs right here at the DC Convention Center. So with all of this talent, we are going to go with a great record, as Russell said, that most of these individuals will not be sitting long. There will be no grass that grows under their feet.
Yeah, you know, we've seen some interesting, we actually recycle our interns. We've had alumni come back where the Office of Sustainability at Howard University actually was an outgrowth of this program. And so one of our alumni from 2009 came back as a trainer on campus in 2010 and helped launch those students who then became the first employees or interns of that Office of Sustainability. And so we follow them. That is, they do an amazing job during the summer, so Angelique and I and Margaret, we follow them on out. They have our numbers, and we're here to support them with whatever they do.
Yeah, we're really proud of the fact that they don't get too far away from us. We don't forget them, and they don't forget us. And I think that's one of those very, very special relationships. I mean, all of a sudden it's an adopted family, but this is a family of sustainability and sustaining these networks and sustaining this power. I've always believed that with power, you are strong. Is there, we do have time for one more question, if there is. If not, we want to thank you for taking a look at the biggest, brightest agents we currently have in DC.
And I would like to thank you all for being here. We appreciate having you as an audience. We would very much like to find ways to serve you and your community projects in the future. If you know someone who is a college student or recently graduated, we will be running this program, we anticipate, in 2013. So reach out. There is a Facebook address. It's facebook.com/THEMRSI. That's Material Resource Sustainability Internship. And we are grateful for all the partners we've had over the years. And I'd like to once more acknowledge Margaret Morgan-Hubbard in the audience with us from Eco City Farms. Thank you so much, Margaret. All right, thank you all for being here. We greatly appreciated your attention, and have a wonderful weekend.